So, more than 10 years of build-up have been leading up to this. To be honest, this movie was a lot. I needed time to really stew it over. I'll be honest, I can see some fans and critics taking issue with it, but not us. Not us. In my personal opinion, between Infinity War and Endgame, I think that Infinity War is the more well put together and well structured film. Infinity War was perfectly balanced between comedy, drama, and action. In a way, kind of like Thanos himself. In comparison, Endgame is messy, unpredictable. Man, when those moments hit, they hit like a sledgehammer. Like the wind up to a battering ram, Endgame has payoff to literal years of build-up. To me, if Infinity War is the cold, analytical, and pristine movie that says that cold logic is supreme, then Endgame is the raw, messy, but jam-packed film that pushes back and says that no matter the cost, we'll save everyone. The movie picks up right after Infinity War, after Thanos has performed the snap, known in the MCU as the decimation. The remaining Avengers gather to go confront Thanos, expecting the fight of their lives, only to find that he is unarmed, unprotected, and left relatively helpless, or as helpless as a gigantic purple grimace can get. Thanos then reveals that he used the stones to destroy the stones. I think that while most people in the audience speculated that the Avengers were going to go after the Mad Titan, we thought the bulk of the movie would be the battle to wrestle the gauntlet from Thanos. But no, we're denied that. We're denied that hope. I gotta give it to Thanos, that was a clever move. He even states that the stones would have served as temptation. Maybe he meant temptation for himself to undo the snap. Maybe he meant temptation for the heroes to undo the snap. But either way, he took one of the most critical pieces out of the equation. In spite of the fact that the Avengers have him at metaphorical gunpoint, the Titan seems almost peaceful. And almost seems shocked that they aren't grateful for his grand act of courage. Even though he even tries to reconcile with Nebula. And then he is suddenly silenced. We pan over to Thor, who finally went for the head. Then we are hit with the biggest gut punch in the MCU, worse than even the snap itself. We pan over to the words, 5 years later. Then you realize that things can never go back to the way they were. All those trillions are permanently gone, and worse, that all those left behind have to move on. The film forces us to really breathe in this future. Like the saying goes, this truly is the darkest timeline. It feels like a hollow, dead world, like a haunted world. Thanos might have thought he was doing the universe a blessing, but the survivors would beg to differ. The universe and the Avengers are all in several stages of grief. All are trying to deal with the enormity of their loss as best they can. Supercarlinbrothers actually made a video detailing how the Avengers each exemplify a stage of grief. I'll leave a link to the description and comments down below. We pan over to a forgotten van in sub-storage center, where we see a mischievous mouse release the Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, from the quantum realm. Scott has joined the ranks of Cap as a man out of time, as he only feels like he was away for 5 hours in the quantum realm, while everyone else has aged 5 years. He traverses this derelict world and realizes what happened. He makes his way over to the Avengers compound and tells them about the quantum realm, and the possibility of time travel. The Avengers are skeptical at first, but after a couple tries, they manage to figure out a way to use the quantum realm to travel into the past and retrieve the Infinity Stones by bringing them to their present. and then to undo the snap. So they suit up and head off. Here we get to the second act of the movie. Our heroes have a plan and 1 in a million odds of making it work. So they split up to look for the Infinity Stones in the past to bring them to the present. Now, I'll admit that time travel in the film can get kind of convoluted because they gotta do so many things. They have to go to the past via quantum realm while not being seen, bring their selected Infinity Stones back to the present to be used to undo the snap, then bring the Infinity Stones back to their correct points in time afterward. The movie basically explains that the Avengers can't produce true time travel because the past is already set, but they can emerge into a parallel past and borrow that universe's Infinity Stones, provided they return them. Now, all this talk of time travel and parallel timelines definitely evokes the idea of a multiverse. A multiverse, in the comics at least, is the idea that there are an infinite number of realities out there, and that events in our own timeline could go very differently. But I gotta admit that this is an iffy part of the movie for me. Now, returning back to the plot, the Avengers do mainly manage to obtain the Infinity Stones from the parallel timelines. However, they accidentally alert the presence of the past version of Thanos. And whoo boy, if you thought the Infinity War Thanos was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. So, I got a question for you. Do you like football? Because the best way I can summarize the third act of the movie is like the final seconds before a sporting event. The bases are loaded, the game is tied neck to neck, and it's time to put up or shut up. The Avengers gather the stones on a gauntlet that Tony made for the occasion, and Hulk provides the piece de resistance and snaps his fingers. However, before we can get confirmation that the Avengers plan worked, the Avengers compound is bombarded to smithereens by past Thanos' alien armada. Then, in a blaze of hellfire, the Mad Titan emerges, only this time the gloves are off. Thanos didn't think much of the Avengers before, but now that he knows that they will go to any lengths to oppose his will, he'll make sure to destroy them this time. Our big three confront Thanos and try and keep the Stark Gauntlet away from Thanos' forces, but it's no use. Thanos is too formidable, his army too large. Thanos then threatens that unlike last time, where he left half the universe alive, that this time he would completely erase the universe to dust and recreate it into a paradise on the blood of the old one. But he lets the Avengers know that before he does any of that, he's going to take particular pleasure in destroying the Earth first. The camera zooms in on Captain America, the last one standing against Thanos and his horde, and like a true hero, he grits his teeth and gets ready for the fight of his life. Then we hear a voice on his intercom. On your left. Suddenly, a ton of portals open up. All the snap victims from Infinity War are back. We see the Wakandans, the Asgardians, the Sorcerers of the Mystic Arts, the Zendarians, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and so many more. Basically, every hero or heroic organization in the MCU has shown up. And the following battle is so epic I can hardly put it into words. Needless to say, you need to see it to appreciate it. In spite of the resurrected heroes evening the odds somewhat, Thanos still manages to get the gauntlet, and history is about to repeat itself. However, Tony makes a final grab at the gauntlet, only for the Titan to shrug him off and proclaim that he is inevitable, and snaps his fingers. But nothing happens, only for Tony to respond with the Infinity Stones now integrated into his suit, that he is Iron Man, and snaps his fingers. Then we see the entirety of Thanos' army fade into dust, with the Mad Titan solemnly acknowledging his death before fading away into the ether. Finally, the universe is saved, the terror of Thanos is gone, and the decimation has been reversed. But at what cost? We cut to the man we began this journey with all those years ago in 2008. now gasping for breath and on his last legs. And if I can just say my piece for a minute, the character of Tony Stark went from the kind of man who couldn't have cared less about the state of the world to the man who gave everything in service of the universe. Everyone always said he wasn't the kind of guy to make the ultimate sacrifice. But here, in this movie, he proves, without a doubt, that he is that kind of hero. Enough said. As a Marvel fan, I'm more than happy with the film we got. I think that if you're a longtime fan of this franchise, this is the sort of payoff that you've been looking for. Yet, I think that if you're a little bit tired of the MCU at this point, that no one would begrudge you from taking a break after such a satisfying conclusion. I want to thank all the folks over at Disney and Marvel for the amazing ride we've been on for over a decade. And I want to give a special thanks to the comic makers way back in the day, like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko, and so many more. Thank you all for making a world full of heroes and hope. Excelsior. And stay gold, my marvelous crew.